topics, and today we'll be talking about e-business security. All right, e-business security, and it's our intention and or our plan that at the end of today's session, every student should be able to list the various types of security measures for e-commerce, be able to describe the access that we have to security measures and the different security measures that we have, be able to identify some security measures for a website. Every student should be able to explain the relevance of security measures. Every student should be able to explain the basic principles. Every student should be able to explain the basic principles for security, for customer security, and track a customer as a security measure. Okay. We'll be talking about the computer and the security. Remember, the computer is it's just like your interface between you and the internet. You can also use your phone for such, but the computer is key. In previous sessions, we discussed the concept and nature of e-marketing. Today, we are going to be talking about the concept and nature of e-business security. Computer and security is key at this point. Now, before the advent of the internet, computer security was limited to closed systems. And what do we mean by that? These are network of computers such as offices, network of computers in banks, where only people physically in the office can use that computer system. So that's why it's called a closed system. With the advent of the internet, computers or computer users can now work in an open system, and security has become much more complicated with this new invention. Now, connecting your home computer or your office computer to the internet and performing remote transactions without leaving the building is something that also requires you to consciously think about security. Now, transactions taking place across the internet bounces the information through various computers before it reaches the destination or wherever you want to transact from. So it's important that you would like to be sure that your transaction is secured. Hence, your computer, this is the topic, computer and security becomes very, very important. Okay, now there are many different types of security systems, though most use a process called encryption. But let's list some of them. Number one is the personal identification number, that is the PIN or password for verification. Most of you have a PIN to your phone, to your bank app, and so on and so forth. When you connect to the bank or app or other services, you try to make sure that you are often required, or they make sure that you often are required to use your username or your personal identification number. If you are using the internet browser for such transaction, not just the app on your phone, you will see a small closed lock, a padlock, appear in the window of your browser somewhere towards your upper left hand corner, just by your URL. That is a sign of security. Another one is the encryption security. Encryption is a kind of another method of security. So privacy is handled by encryption. The encryption ensures privacy. In a public key infrastructure, we often call it the PKI infrastructure. A message is encrypted by a public key and decrypted by a private key. Now, the public key is widely distributed, but only the recipient has a key for authentication. All right. Now, that authentication simply means proving the identity of the sender, since only the sender has the key. Now, the encrypted message, the encrypted message encrypted again after the authentication is done, but this time with a private key. Now, that is how the encryption security measure work. Such procedures form the basis of how banks, government, even the good privacy, uh, the this good privacy works. All right, now, but unfortunately, this public key infrastructure is not an efficient way of sending large amount of information, and is often used only in a first step to allow two parties to agree upon a key for symmetric secret key encryption. So don't just worry yourself about the big grammar, but just note these security methods that we are enlisted. The third security measure what we'll be talking about is the digital signature and certificates. Digital signatures meet the need for authentication and integrity. To vastly simplify matters, as throughout this page, a plain text message is run through a hash function. So giving a value called the message digest. This digest, the hash function and the plain text put together, they are encrypted with the recipient's public key to send, and is sent to the recipient. Now the recipient decodes this message with their private key and runs the message through the supplied hash function, so that the message digest value remains unchanged. Now all these are just a kind of the explanation of how the digital signature and certificate works. So when messages are passed, the the recipient's computer tends to try to authenticate it by sending out some messages to confirm where the message is coming from and how, and some other variables. Now, what about authentication? How does a customer know that the website receiving sensitive information is not set up by some third party or a phishing site trying to mimic maybe your bank or your e-commerce shop? Now, this digital signature, the websites try to check the digital signature of where the messages are coming from. This is a digital document. That digital signature simply means a digital document issued by a certificate authority. And some of the certificate authorities we are conversant with is the VeriSign, the TWAT, and some other certificate authorities. They are unique, or they have uniquely they have these certificate authorities, that is the CAs, that their function is uniquely to identify the merchant. So once they can't identify it, you see it flagged there that this site is not confirmed, the certificate has expired or something like that, and that gives you a kind of nudge to either deal carefully with such a site. Now, digital certificates are sold for emails, e-merchants, and web servers. Another security, that's the fourth we'll be talking about, is the SSL. We've mentioned it earlier in one of our classes. SSL simply means secure socket layers. This is the technique in which web servers and web browsers encrypt and decrypt all the information that they transmit and receive. Both ends establish and use same scheme for making sure that no one else is listening to their conversation. Information sent over the internet commonly uses the set of rules called the TCP/IP. Simply means transmission control protocol, or slash internet protocol. The information is broken into packets, numbered sequentially, and an error control pack are attached. Individual packets are sent by different routes. The TCP/IP reassembles them in order. Remember, they are in sequence. Reassembles them in order and resubmits any packets that shows errors. So the SSL layers, the secure socket layers, uses the PKIs and the digital signatures to ensure privacy and authentication. Now the fifth is the PCI, the peripheral component interconnect. Now, sometimes you observe that credit card details can be safely sent with SSL through web servers and all that, as we explained earlier. But once stored on that server, they are vulnerable to outside hackers or outside hacking, or those that want to hack that particular server where those details are secured in. So a PC, that is the PCI, card is often added for protection. So it's added as an additional protection on your servers to protect it. Then the sixth one is the SET, SET, which simply means secure electronic transaction. It was developed by Visa and MasterCard. It uses the PKI for privacy and certificates to authenticate, and the third party to authenticate the third parties like your merchants, your customers, or your bank. Another set of security again is the firewalls. The firewall helps to protect a server, a network, or individual PCs. Some of you have it on your PCs right now from the attack from viruses and hackers. Then we have the Kerberos. The Kerberos protocol, which uses symmetric secret key cryptography to restrict access to unauthorized employees or personnel to protect from malice or carelessness within a system. So these are just security levels that uh, we just mentioned right now. Now let's talk about setting up security. Our discussion in this section is limited to just the topic of protecting emails and small businesses or organizational transactions. All right. So emails can be protected using a service or an application, that is a program. You can use a program that is running by the site to protect your email or your business transaction. There are others apart from what we just listed. There are others, but we will be we will we'll be talking about just two security settings that stand out currently, and they are the S/MIME and the PGP. Now you may ask, what does these acronyms mean? The S/MIME, the SMIME, simply means Secure Multipurpose Internet Mail Extension. Now you must have seen that it is going for your for mails to try to protect it by the name you see there. Now, this SMIM requires the user to register with a third-party service which issues a digital ID that you attach to your message. Though this is usually a commercial service, there's often a free introductory period which you can exploit. Now, the second one is the PGP. What does it really mean? PGP simply means pretty good privacy. You can check it up on the internet. It's interesting. It's free for personal use or commercial application for business use, and is run from your own computer. So you see, it's an application, can work. Now, both methods allows users to sign or attach a digital identification to the email messages, which verifies which verifies to the recipient that the message is from the original person or organization that the information is within transit. So it's just helping it to authenticate it. Okay, now small businesses and organizations that wish to offer transactions over the internet or e-business can take their secure servers or purchase a service from a third party. So you can use a third party application to provide security to your servers. There are various types, including third party services that take a percentage of the transaction. That is how much you make. If you make 20, they take a percentage of it. If you make 30, they take a percentage of it. Okay, or they charge a service fee, or they charge for your transaction. So choose reliable organizations by considering the length of time of operations they are offering you, to avoid downtime, because you may be secured at a time. If there's a downtime, you will be vulnerable at a particular time, so you are careful on that about that. Now, also be careful about inaccessible transaction servers. Now, watch for the contracts they are offering. Watch the contracts that they lock you in. As the market is still developing, remember, different kinds of securities are coming up, different type of vulnerabilities are appearing. So you be careful that you don't lock yourself down to a particular third party program and then keep yourself vulnerable going forward. So that is about it. It is easy to switch services by simply changing the address of your website order forms. Now, while still talking about security, now let's talk about security as it concerns your website. As stated at the beginning of this unit, the nature of the internet is an open system. Having said that, there are many reasons and many ways to set up a secure or closed system within this open framework. Private or member-based discussion groups, private files or folders, protected databases, copyright materials, to name a few, all need some way of allowing them to be distributed to the intended recipients only. So they need a kind of security. Also, many businesses are creating intranets, which are closed systems only accessible to the registered users, and easily accessible, and internet or an intranet can provide a way of making company information easily accessible and allow branch offices to communicate with each other easily. Your website itself is protected by your ISP, that is those that provide internet for you. Your ISP's software, they're protected. So it's important to note this as concerning our account security. You may have an account in a particular website, a particular bank, a particular system. Be assured that there's a first level of security. So let's know what that first level is. When trying to access your web space to change or modify a file using a shell or a FTP, you are challenged to send your username and password. This is the first line of protection and adequate for many website administrators. So when we talk about this, some of you may not get the point. The point is that when you have a website that you are managing, what happens most times is that the ISP, that is the internet service provider, has a software that protects all their users. So that is the first line. They protect you from that. But however, that is the first line. For some people and the kind of business they do, that is adequate. But for some, their business is more delicate and requires more security, so they move beyond this first line of protection. Now there's a server security that comes next. The server that your website is installed on is the second protection. Most servers have security features built in to them, allowing users to password protect their folders or build scripts to send a username password challenge to a user trying to access a file or folder. So you see, that's another level of security, allowing website administrators the ability to create discussion groups, documents, or place confidential information within their sites that is made available only to registered users. Unfortunately, some ISPs either doesn't make this option available or charge a premium for their users to use them, or only allow their own employees to set them up. Now, the next level of protection is third-party security, and this third-party security uh, is another option which includes contracting the protection of private files to a separate service. You pay a third-party organization or service to host a private discussion group or obtain website spaces on another server that allows access to security options. So the third party is just like getting a contractor to handle your security, but it's a software company and so on. Then another option is the use of JavaScript software. You use a software security at this time. You can use a JavaScript or a Java applet to control customers or members access secure features. This option is available to users who are using Java-enabled browsers. Scripts and applets can control access to documents and databases, they create content on the fly based on users' input. They detect the browsers the visitor is using and direct them to the proper page. They retrieve cookies, they use that information thereof to determine whether a user has access to a certain area or not, as well as many other uses. So that software is quite enabling. Then we also have another kind of protection, which is copyright. Now, copyright in itself is not like it's protecting you, but uh, you have to have an information about this. You should just be cautious of this. Now, copyright is a protection using the same process as any original It's a protection. Now we're talking about copyright. Very sorry about that. Now, what do you need to note about copyright? As it concerns copyright, anything you get off the internet, anything that a user gets off the internet should be treated as privately owned information unless otherwise noted. Anyone posting private information to the internet should be aware that copyright laws is not the same in every country and may be difficult to enforce. So it's important to know this. Copyright is a protection using the same process of any kind of maybe original documents, books, artworks, and so on. Now, it is possible to set up a page that won't be stored on the user's computer once they leave the site, but that will only slow down um, to slow down, not stop users who want to obtain information posted on a website. You can copy pictures, you can copy things, but be sure that you don't copy pictures that people have copyrighted. It will put you in a very bad position as an organization. So it's important you go to some website that give you royalty free pictures, videos, sound, and so on, so that you don't breach copyright laws. Now the next one is updating your software. It's always important to update software on your computer, on your phones. Updating your apps on your phone is another security measure. It is very important to do the update on those things periodically. When a program is released, for internet browsers, it may contain flaws, usually referred to as bugs. These bugs may not appear to be a problem, but criminals will attempt to use these flaws for their own use. Keeping your software up to date will help keep your computer or your phones secure and your accounts. Of course, recently we know about people hacking into people's WhatsApp accounts. Now, when WhatsApp started initially, they didn't take into consideration that criminal elements will try to take people's identity in form of their phone numbers and try to defraud their group members and friends. But today, they've taken that into consideration. So once you update your WhatsApp, you can do a two-way verification authentication. You can even put your email address. So it's important that as you're listening to me now, share with the other of your friends to try to do that two-way authentication on your WhatsApp. It's like updating your WhatsApp. If you are using old archaic WhatsApp, this option and functionalities will not be there. But once you update it to the latest one, you will see that it gives you an option to put your email. Now the hackers try to hack into your WhatsApp, and as soon as they succeed in doing that, the next thing they will do is to change your to input their own email into your phone number, so you can't retrieve it again. Now, is security necessary? Of course, you know security is very necessary. Now, for what reasons are they necessary? One, we have forgery. With digital signatures, one can verify whether a document and email is genuine or not. So you see, it's necessary that we have security to forestall forgery. Then confidentiality. A secure directory within your website is an ideal spot to store sensitive materials. Now, we're talking about those that have websites and manage their website. For those of you that just use websites, you may not understand some of these things, but it's important I explain it. If you have a website and you manage it, one of the few things you will know that you will find out that you do often is that you try to upload files at the back end. All right, you try to upload pictures into your website, files to your website, and these things are uploaded into folders. That's how you store them. So a secure directory, those folders should be secured within your website as an ideal spot to store sensitive materials, making it available for members and people who have the proper password to access your website. If not, hackers will take it up and they will use it against you. Another, is security necessary? Of course, the answer is yes. Why? Because people constantly will try to spam you. Spamming, one common malicious act is called spamming, is to search the website for email addresses and then add them to a spam distribution list and send messages to them arbitrarily. Unfortunately, there's very little that can be done to counter this other this other other than removing your email address from your website, but this makes it difficult for your customers to contact you. So you see, it spamming just seems to be what is very difficult to check. Okay, now let's talk about the basic principles for customer security. Most e-commerce merchants leave the operations thereof to their hosting company or IT staff, but it helps to understand the basic principles. Any system should meet these four requirements. Any system you use should meet these four requirements. One, privacy. Two, integrity. Three, authentication. And then four, non-repudiation. So your system must meet them. Now, what do we mean by privacy? Privacy, information must be. Now we're talking about basic principles in customer security. What do we mean by that? Most e-commerce merchants leave the operations thereof to their hosting company or IT staff, but it helps for you to understand the basic principles. Any system you will be using should meet the 4 requirements for security: 1, privacy; 2, integrity; 3, authentication; and 4, non-repudiation. What do we mean by privacy? Information must be kept from unauthorized persons, so that is privacy. Your information should remain with you. Integrity simply means messages must not be altered or tampered with. Authentication simply means senders and recipients must prove their identity to each other. That's why you have PIN and logins and all that. Then we have non-repudiation. That is, proof is needed that messages was indeed received. Now these days you hear of people saying we have receipt, you have receipt of what you said online and all that. This is non-repudiation, because it is a way you prove that the message was received or sent. Now the next thing we'll talk about is transactions. Sensitive information should be protected through at least 3 transactions. The first is your credit card. The credit card details supplied by customers either to the merchants or payment gateway handled by the servers SSL and the merchant's uh, server's digital certificate should also be is a sensitive information. Now, credit card details passed to the bank for processing, handling by the complex security measures of payment gateway is one of the 3 transactions. The third one is order and customer details. Order and customer details. Now, when we say order and customer details, we talk about the details supplied to the merchant, either directly or from payment gateways or from credit cards processing company, which is handled by SSLs, server security, digital certificates, and payment gateway systems. Now, what are the practical consequences for having security? 1. The merchant is always responsible for security of the internet connected PC where customer details are handled. So these are the practical consequences of either having a security or not having one. The merchant should be aware that they are always responsible for the security of the internet connection or connected PCs where their customer details are handled. Virus protection and firewalls are the minimum requirement to be safe. Store sensitive information and customer details on a zip disk, a physically separate PC, or with a commercial file storage service to ensure that they are protected properly. Always keep multiple backups of essential information and ensure that they are stored safely off site. Number 2, where customers order by email, information should be encrypted with PGP or similar software, or payment should be made by specially encrypted checks and ordering software. Number 3, where credit cards are taken online and processed later, it's the merchant's responsibility to check the security of the hosting company's web server. Use a reputable company and demand detailed replies to your queries. Number 4, where credit cards are taken online and processed in real time, 4 situations will arise. The first is that you are a service bureau. Sensitive information is handled entirely by the service bureau, which is responsible for its security. Other customers and other details are your responsibility, as in number 3 consequences above. Number 2 of the 4 situations that may arise is that you possess an e-business merchant account but use digital certificates supplied by the hosting company, a cheaper option acceptable for smallish transactions with SMEs. Check out the hosting company and the terms and conditions applying to the digital certificate. Number 3, you possess an e-business merchant account and obtain your own digital certificate. So these are the options you have. These are the situations that arise from number 4. Now, check out the hosting company and enter a dialogue with the certification authority. They will certainly probe your credentials. Number 4, you possess a merchant account, and then you run business from your own server. So you see, you have different options. You need trained IT staff to maintain all aspects of the security firewalls, the cables, the SSL, and user certificates for the server you've just obtained. Now, security is a vexing, costly, and complicated business, but a single lapse can be expensive in lost funds, records, and reputation. Now, tracking the customer. Fax and IP numbers. Of primary importance in any transaction is that the customer feels comfortable with your communication. To make it seem like the website is talking to each customer individually, you must track who the customer is and what he or she is interested in. The most common way that this is achieved on the web is with the shopping cart. People put things inside their shopping cart, and so you deal with them according to their names, according to their shopping cart. This allows many different people to be shopping on your site and all have their own sets of items in their cart. In our fax back example, you will have to use something like the fax number to keep track of each customer. So you see, everybody has a unique fax number or unique identity which you can use. Your equivalent with the web would be the IP number of each machine, phones, and all that. Now, the one major difference is that a customer's fax number doesn't change very often, while a customer's IP number can change with every time that they connect to the internet, but the fax number just remains the same. Another way of tracking customers is use of cookies. It's very common also. You can have your website put a cookie on the customer's machine so that it maintains important information like the content of their shopping cart. Another way is the tag propagation. A better technique that can have that I can have that you can have that has been found is the tag propagation. This is a technique in which the first page that someone hits when they enter the site assigns a unique number, something like a number of seconds since 1904. This number is in turn passed through every page on the site, and the shopping cart information is stored in a file with that number on the server. This allows a customer to disconnect by choice or happenstance from the internet and not lose the shopping cart information. So these are the different ways you can track your customers. Then we have tracking stolen cards. All right, tracking the customer is very useful, not just for the convenience of the shopping cart, but for things like when you're trying to track down the people that you think are using stolen cards, and more importantly for that all elusive goal to make sure that the site is more usable. Then we have trends of store visitors. You can use to check the trend of those that visit a particular server. Now, we have areas that need securities. These are security concerns. Let's talk about some of them. Areas that need security. Concerning security, apart from eavesdropping, whenever you send things across the internet, people try to eavesdrop, they try to tap into it. Apart from eavesdroppers, there is the need to secure the website from attackers, people trying to find credit card numbers in account logs, or just trying to steal products to buy at ridiculous low or free prices. Prevention of this type of security breach is the most overlooked areas. The first obvious area to secure is the accounting files. Let's say the web server is doing a good job of keeping people out of sensitive areas, but the same machine is also your FTP server. People are prevented by the web server from getting to your account log or accounting log, but maybe there is a security hole because your FTP server software allows access to this log. So the best advice is to limit the access protocols to all sensitive data. Store your accounting logs and other sensitive files outside the web server folder. Don't run an FTP and other protocol services on the same machine. Also make sure that if you are delivering electronic products, only the person that bought it gets it. I think we are getting to the end of it today. Areas that do not need security. There are many areas within the selection and buying process that are considered public information and therefore don't need security. In fact, the whole process will be slowed down if it sent everything through the SSL server. Imagine if you receive a mail order catalog from Mac Warehouse or Club Mac and you had to put a decoder ring over each letter to figure out what it really was. That will take you hours just to read one page. That is what your browser is doing with the SSL data. So big picture, you only want to use SSL where you are expecting sensitive data from the customer, like a credit card number and so on. Protect that from eavesdroppers, that from hackers and so on with SSL. Everything else should go through the non-SSL server. Okay, so far we were able to discuss the concept and nature of e-business security, highlight the security method, setting up security, relationship between security and the website. It is whether security is necessary. We also talked about tracking customers and consequences of having no security on your website. All right, I advise I will try to assess this self-assessment exercise. Discuss the relationship between computers and security. Try and mention 5 security methods for e-commerce security. Mention 4 basic requirements of any system to secure a customer within the context of this discussion. All right, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you in my next class.